You know, Uncle Doug,
Here am I.
if there's one thing that I love in the world,
It is the How To Heretic Salute to American Folk Music.
dun, 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 ba-da-da-da-da-bow. No, it is words that confuse people. So,
Like how flammable and inflammable mean the same goddamn thing.
right.
And raise, that drives me fucking crazy.
What?
And, why do you park on the driveway and drive in the parkway?
You can raise a building and raise a building.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They raised it to the ground. That always made me nuts.
But in this case, it's a word that
Anyway.
sounds like another word, but isn't that other word. And then I don't know where to go with it, and I never have been able to figure what it is. And Uncle Mark is here to probably further confuse me with a word that sounds like theology, but isn't. What are you talking about, Mark?
You know, in the same way that do you guys remember, like, I don't know, in the 80s when I was in college and traveling around the country for my extremely excellent
1880s.
my extremely excellent and high-speed athletic career,
Yeah.
that there were billboards everywhere for Scientology.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know what it was yet. You
Right.
know, there was the Dianetics sign in Scientology.
Well, it obviously had to do with science. So
Right.
that's
So I'm
good.
like, oh, this is interesting. This is some kind of science information. But what I'm about to talk about and the sort of people we're about to meet tried to pull the same scam pretty much.
Yeah.
Just a little earlier than L. Ron Hubbard did, than LRH did. So we're going to talk about the Theosophists, the practitioners of Theosophy.
It's like theology and philosophy
That's right.
all mixed into one.
It sounds so smart.
It's all of the smarts.
SMRT.
You are going to see how smart this shit is. So there are a few strains of Theosophy, but the OG, the original, is the Theosophy brought to us by a Russian emigre named Helena Blavatsky.
A chick?
A lady person. And the Blavatsky.
Are they allowed to start things?
Well, you know, it is pretty hilarious. Like, look, this may be the first time we've talked about one of these crazy things started by a woman, right? And this is all just part of our #Cult2 effort, just to show that if women work 30% harder for 30% less, they can be just as crazy as men when it comes to cooking up absurd ideas. Now, she did have a couple male colleagues, Henry Steele Olcott and William Quan Judge, because like a woman can start a whole crazy religion all by herself and still keep the housework up.
Right.
And we all know women are too emotional to be reliable cult leaders anyway, so that's just a true. Doug and Dan have left the room. I'm alone. I'm alone here suddenly. So anyway, she was a Russian emigre and came to the United States and founded this thing in 1875. You know, the mid-19th century was good times for a lot of brand new ideas. So
Yeah.
So as the name itself demonstrates, the broad nature of the idea they were going for, combining the Greek theos, meaning gods, with Sophia, meaning wisdom, therefore the wisdom of the gods. The basic idea is that there is a single absolute source of knowledge and truth that has informed humanity from when we were before humans through all
it's
eternity.
called Wikipedia.
But what matters is seeking to tap into that absolute knowledge and wisdom.
Sure.
Not so much the method by which you get there.
I want to tap that.
It's pretty. It's got quite a positive charge. Be warned. So to Blavatsky, most of the great religions of the world would suffice as a vehicle to get to this absolute truth if it was practiced correctly. So the Theosophy and a lot of its cousins are all part of what is called the Western esoteric movement. Little slippery to define, but here's kind of the best definitions I could find of it. So in broad outline, it's an embrace of all the cast-off ideas from the advancement of Western knowledge and understanding, kind of a gathering up of all the things Western science and Western religious orthodoxy cast off. So it's also...
It's about cupping, then.
It's a little bit about cupping, actually. It's also an attempt to preserve a sense of magical enchantment in a less and less enchanted world that science was making encroachments on. It also
the enchanted world of 1875.
Yeah, what a time to be alive. Civil War was over and everything was fine. So this movement kind of includes ideas like Gnosticism, Hermeticism, Rosicrucianism, Freemasonry, and lots of other ideas that we would call the occult.
Or stupid. Sometimes we
now.
would just call it stupid.
Hey, now, you're going to get our friend Lucian Greaves all up in a bustle. So, this kind of larger idea of spiritualism is part of these esoteric ideologies. And as many of the late 19th century and even mid 20th century New Age movements that cobbled together some Christian tenets with Eastern philosophies borrowed from Hinduism and Buddhism are also part of the Western esoteric movement. So Blavatsky's Theosophy that we're talking about, the Church of Satan is part of that world. And I would even say Scientology falls under that umbrella. So while a lot of these old sit around the table and try to summon the ghost of Harry Houdini cults have pretty much petered out, there's still plenty of Western esoteric groups around if you might have a hankering for that flavor of weird.
And who doesn't?
But this is, when we start digging into all this, especially the conspiracy, wooey, these esoteric religions, it's so interesting how often random segments of ours begin to intersect with other ones.
Sure.
Remember just last week when we talked about the original Noah, Utnapishtim?
Yes.
A story from 5,000 years ago in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Well, and how that rattled some of the very long-held and very incorrect assumptions about the divinity and the origin of the Bible. Well, it turns out the Western esoteric movement and Theosophy were born out of these same new pressures in the 19th century. I'll quote author Bruce F. Campbell here.
Oh, please do.
Ed,
I was hoping you would get to him.
We're all familiar with his work, especially
Huge fans.
before he went electric. The American social situation from which the Theosophical Society emerged was one of great upheaval, and the religious situation was one of challenge to Orthodox Christianity. The forces that had surfaced in spiritualism included anti-clericalism, anti-institutionalism, eclecticism, social liberalism, and belief in progress and individual effort. Occultism, mediated to America in the form of mesmerism, there's some names in here, watch out, mesmerism, Swedenborgianism, Freemasonry, and Rosicrucianism were present. Recent developments in science led by the 1870s to renewed interest in reconciling science and religion. There was present also a hope that Asian religious ideas could be integrated into a grand religious synthesis. End quote.
So basically, as science kept killing their magic, they just needed, they just yearned for a return to it.
Yeah, so it's a different kind of God of the gaps, right?
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's
the opposite of God of the gaps.
It's let's make more gaps.
Taking the science between the gaps and putting that into a different place, right?
Right. Well, and yeah, exactly. It's the God of the things science has disproved that. Well, I still am going to believe it.
Yeah.
It's the God of grumpiness.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. So this new idea of science and religion being compatible was exciting to the Theosophists.
Sure.
Except that it wasn't really new. So we talked a bit about it a couple weeks ago when we referenced the brilliant scientific minds of the Enlightenment and how they were thinking about, real physics and real chemistry, while at the same time getting their big brains tangled all up in garbage like the hollow earth hypothesis. And even the venerable Sir Isaac Newton spent a considerable amount of time reading the Old Testament to come up with the age of the physical earth.
And alchemy.
Yeah.
But since more rigorous non-superstition-based science came along and really got moving in the 19th century, religion and science had become they were on totally divergent paths. So where most branches of Christianity reacted to the anthropological and archaeological challenges to their truth claims by totally rejecting science, Blavatsky thought it was reconcilable with the truths she was penning. But let me lay out a few of those ancient truths she championed, and you fellas see if you think it was a wise move for her to pull science into her tent. So, like in the case in some Eastern traditions, Blavatsky taught that this reality we share is an illusion, a projection, and that by becoming enlightened, we could see through this projection to a higher truth. So science is all over that.
So wait, no, she's now predicting the quantum multiverse.
Or the Matrix.
So far, 1 for 1. She's doing great. As long as we can justify them, and I'm guessing we'll be able to justify all of these. Let's go.
Okay, well,
I'm taking the challenge.
Here we go. And what is the higher truth? Well, one of them is that all of the nearly endless inhabited solar systems in the universe are projections of their own solar deity, and that there are 7 ministers of each planet controlling the evolution of its minerals, plants, animals, sentient beings, and spirits, which, in a very complicated bit of cosmology, evolve to completion in that order. So the minerals must evolve first, and when they're done, then the plants can evolve, and when they're done, the animals can evolve. Yeah, that's science.
Very clearly true.
Yeah, very clearly true.
Okay.
Yeah, it's completely sensible.
Where do we come up with 7 ministers? Where does this? It's like, okay, I kind of get you're piecing together this science with religion, but then where is this other shit coming from? And she's making shit up too, right?
She's just using,
You got to thread this to that somehow.
There's frankly, there's probably some sort of magical thing back in her motherland.
Some evolved mineral that was talking to her.
Yeah.
The evolution of coal. Well, if any mineral evolves, it is coal. So, another of these great scientifically provable truths she espoused is that there are root races.
Oh, boy.
That's never a good sign. Looking into a religion to jump on the bandwagon with. Weirdly, in this instance, it's not as alarming as we're used to, though the 7 root races are subdivided into 7 sub-races. Also not a promising thing to read. So, who are these races? The first root race was created from pure spirit and lived on a secret continent called the Imperishable Sacred Land, which, in an ironic twist, perished.
Yeah, right? A.K.A. Lemuria.
The unsinkable continent.
Getting ahead of me here.
Uh-oh.
The second root race, as we all know, were called the Hyperboreans,
Right.
lived near the North Pole, which had a milder climate back then.
As opposed to the spazzy Spaniards.
And they make toys for all the boys and girls.
Except they were giants.
Well, okay.
Unlike your standard elf.
Sure.
Standard issue elf. So the third root race, though not named in my research, lived in a place we seem to keep finding ourselves transported back to here on the Heretic, the lost continent of Lemuria.
Oh, my God. No.
So you guys remember Lemuria. It's just such a bring back.
Yeah, because of all the race of people called lemurs.
So Helena Blavatsky's bold scientific departure from the contemporary orthodoxy on Lemuria was that the long, skinny continent had not sunk totally beneath the waves, but that 2 bits of it remained above the water, those, as we all know, being Australia and, of course, Easter Island.
Right. Which are both, of course, located between Africa and Asia.
Well, it's if your continent sinks and there's 2 bits sticking out. Easter Island would be a great one. It's a nice little island. Australia, it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
All right.
It's an island of the continent of Lemuria. What's hard to understand?
I think what you're failing to understand, Doug, is Lemuria, much like Anne Elk's theory of the Brontosaurus, is that it was thick in the middle and pointy down towards the end. So much like Lemuria, I'm not sure Dan got that, but anybody else who did write in and please so verify my comic genius.
One or 2 of our listeners are laughing their asses off right now.
So, of course, the 4th root race naturally lives in Atlantis, or lived in Atlantis.
Right,
so
obviously
they had telepathy and highly advanced technology, but also were giants that obviously built Stonehenge. They mated with lesser beings, and so now we have gorillas and chimpanzees.
Oh, what ding-dongs. But, if you just don't mate with the lesser beings, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, keep it in your Atlantis pants.
Right.
But they were decadent and kind of dicks, so their continent got submerged. Science will clearly back us all up here.
Right.
Now, you'll be happy to know a few Atlanteans escaped, and that's why we have the pyramids of Egypt in the Americas.
Sure.
Holy cow.
So that's all well and good, and science has, of course, verified all that shit.
Right.
What else do the Theosophists have to offer us? Well, it turns out pretty much all the famous prophets of the world's great religions were part of a great secret brotherhood of masters, except Muhammad. Fuck that guy, I guess. He was not included. Or even, at one time, all the same master in a confusing twist. Blavatsky wrote that Lord Maitreya, a character she co-opted from Buddhist mythology, had actually been the Hindu god Krishna and had kind of something else we're going to talk about in this show, and had entered a guy called Jesus Christ upon his baptism,
obviously,
by his great rival for desert itinerant messiahhood, John the Baptist. Lucky he was named that. That's crazy. John, family business, I guess.
That's obviously his nickname. His name is John. His wrestling name is John the Baptist Cena, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
The gorgeous Baptist.
By the way, all of this mixing and matching has definitely, like, I pulled up the Wikipedia page on this thing, and the symbology, symbolism
is not great.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
Their seal is apparently an Ouroboros snake surrounding a Star of David, which encompasses an ankh overtopped with a swastika. And boy, they are just they've hit all the numbers.
Yeah, it is an utter pastiche. This is not.
It's the unified field theory of dumb.
Oh, and I didn't even see the Sanskrit Om at the top, so they've got it all.
It's all there. Everything you need, swastika included.
Yeah,
batteries not. So, but anyway, Maitreya and a whole bunch of other ancient masters together comprised a thing called, why not, the Great White Lodge. And I swear one day we're going to find some religion to talk about without masses of racially complicated ideas and language.
I bet you're wrong.
Exactly.
So two of these great white masters went by the names of Moira and Moria.
Okay.
I am Moira. And
Moira and Francis.
And Lucille.
A girl from Great Neck. Moria and Kuthumi. Koothumi. Kuthumi.
Yeah.
Two of Blavatsky's co-theosophist honchos had traced their own past lives and found they were monkey-like pets of Moria and Kuthumi.
God.
Wait, it gets better. When they all lived on the moon in those good old pre-Earth days. So
I am the keymaster. Are you the gatekeeper?
Exactly.
So one day, their moon piece was disturbed by moon savages who were obviously described as furry crocodiles. And I'll just suffice it to say, a lot of good moon pets were lost on that terrible moon day.
Did I take drugs before it came
Yeah.
here?
Fortunately, when Captain Kirk did fight one in hand-to-hand combat, he did okay.
That was a Gorn on Cestus 3, I'll have you know.
That's
Look it up.
This may be the point where Helena Blavatsky maybe asked science to leave the building. So it's Moria and Kuthumi that Helena Blavatsky claimed she was in direct contact with.
Of course.
And gave her all the wisdom disguised as totally true science facts. So to wrap it up, Blavatsky dies in 1891 and left her two male co-founders to carry the idea forward. They tried to be, this is very bizarre, they tried to be semi-Catholic for a minute.
Yeah, like you do.
And no Catholic pun intended here. Like so many other groups we've met here on the show, the inevitable pedophilia scandal erupted, and the whole thing just kind of petered out. But that's not to say Theosophy has perished from this earth. There's still some societies and practitioners of some form of the Blavatsky ideas, and Theosophy and the ideas it imported to the West still maintain. And again, I'll quote, you guys know very well the work of Olav Hammer and Michael Rothstein here.
Oh, we're hammerheads here on the show.
Very huge hammerheads about theosophic critique. And I quote, bestsellers and television shows are devoted to theosophical concepts such as reincarnation, spiritual evolution. The internet overflows with references to theosophical concepts such as the human aura. A Google search in May 2012 retrieved 47 million hits. The chakras, 12 million hits. Even truly mainstream media such as the National Geographic Channel present programs devoted to arch-theosophical themes such as Atlantis and the spiritual mysteries of Egypt. Terms and ideas created or mediated by spokespersons of the Theosophical Society have over time become household words, and the advent of Theosophy thus marked a fundamental change in the religious lives of countless individuals, end quotes. So once again, we've shown an idea doesn't have to be sane or at least not stupid to stick around. It, like Lemuria, is just beneath the surface.
Well, I mean,
waiting to trip over.
I didn't want to say it, but we already did Ramtha. I don't know why you brought her back.
I know.
This
it's again, it's amazing how as you dig into this stuff, it all touches, right?
Yeah.
It's all a web of
It's
crazy.
all-
So-
and it's themes that keep popping back up in spite of science's whack-a-mole efforts to knock them down.
including our comedy stylings.
Indeed.
You would think our acerbic takes on Lemuria would make it sink forever.
Our withering
yeah.
commentary.
That our people wait for with bated breath. So that is Theosophy, everybody. Thanks. Let's not talk about that ever again.
Fat chance. Moving on.